Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be making some money. Actually, we're going to be becoming a tycoon, and we're going to be holding stocks as well. But we're not going to be doing it the normal way that you think. We're going to be doing it by creating words using letters. So today we're looking at Letter Tycoon. This is a word game for 2 to 5 players where you'll be using letters in your hand to construct words. You'll also be buying patents which have letters on them, and when opponents use those letters, you'll be getting royalties from the bank. Today we're talking about a rule school here. I am going to show you how to play the game and how to set up the game so you don't have to read the rule book yourself. Well, without further ado, let me give you a quick 1-minute overview and then we'll get in with the instructions. Letter Tycoon is a word game for 2 to 5 players where you'll be creating words from your hand and also possibly using community letters to create those words. You'll be earning coins and stocks depending on how good the word is. You can also spend that money that you just made by buying letter patents, which means when other players use those letters, you'll be gaining money as royalties from the bank. Some letters have special abilities that allow you to manipulate the words that you make. You're trying to reach a certain goal of how many dollars in patents to end the game, and then whoever has the most money, stocks, and money from patents is the winner. To set up, first you'll find the coins. There's 2 values, 1s and 3s, and you'll put them in their respective piles. And next to those you'll take stock of the same values and put them in their respective piles as well. You want to place these where everybody can reach them, but not necessarily right in the middle of the table. And no one will start with any coins, nor will they start with any stocks. You will then find the 26 letter patents. It's these small cards, and you'll place them sort of on the side, but wherever one can still see it. And you'll place them in order from A through Z. And just to note that the vowels are the brown ones, the consonants are green, and special ones that have special abilities are these cream colored ones. Notice that as I overlaid these, that I left the special abilities of the cream colored ones uncovered from the ones next to them. This will just make it easier when you play the game. Each player is going to take a player aid. It has the scoring on one side, and on the other side it has the letter frequency of how many of each letters there are. You can just place this in front of you for reference during the game. You'll then find the player goal cards, and you will use only one of these, however many players there are. So if you're playing from 2 all the way to 5 players, you would take the right goal. So if we were playing at 4 players, we would put this goal where everyone can see it. We'd remove the other ones and place them back in the box. This just tells you what the goal is. I'll get more to this later, but this will set up the end game condition. You'll look for the Zeppelin piece. This is the first player marker. You'll put it close by. Then each player will take the deck and just cut it, and then show everybody the letter that they pulled out, in this case, I. The next player can then cut and pick out a new letter, and you will continue doing this till everyone has picked up and shown a letter. The letter closest to Z for Zeppelin will get this marker, will be the first player, and you just place the cards back on top. Each player will receive 7 letter factory cards, which they will take, keep hidden, and place in their hand so nobody else can see, but they can see them. Also, 3 cards off the top of the letter factory will be put out into a community pool, and you put the rest of the deck here. This will be a draw deck for later in the game, but these are community cards that everyone can use. And the last thing to do in setup is to decide on a dictionary that will be used for challenges, either a paper version or a digital version. And in general, all words labeled as a part of speech are allowed as long as they are 3 letters long, are not abbreviations, proper nouns, or words requiring apostrophe or hyphen. Now when playing, the start player, the one with the Zeppelin from the beginning of the setup, will be the first one to play. Play continues clockwise around the table until the end of the game. The Zeppelin never moves away from the start player. On your turn, you have 2 choices. You can either discard cards and get more, or make a word. Let's go over making a word first, since that's what happens most often. At the top here, we see the 3 community cards that were placed here during setup and the draw deck. These can be used by anybody. Here are the 7 cards, let's say that we were dealt. These would never usually be put on the table. They'd be kept secret away from your opponent so only you can see them. But for this video, I'm putting them here so you can see how the game works. So you have to make a word if you're playing a word, and the word has to be at least 3 letters long. It cannot be abbreviations, proper nouns, or words requiring an apostrophe or hyphen. Now, you have to play at as many as you want, but you have to play at least one from your hand. Now remember, these are community letters that anybody can use. And let's say I want to spell the word jewels. I could say J-E-W-E-L-S. Now notice there's an E here, and there's an E in my hand. I could have chosen to use the one in my hand, but in this case, let's just use all 3 communities. We'll save this one in my hand for later. So we would go ahead and spell that. It would look like this. Now notice I took the 3 community letters and put them down with the letters that were from my hands, and we spelled jewels. And we see that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters long. Now we're going to earn money in stock. So we look at the player aid you were given at the beginning of the game. 6 letters is going to earn us 4 money and 1 stock. So we could take the 3 and the 1. By the way, you can make change at any point in time with the bank. So this would be mine, this is 4, and I'd get 1 stock. Now the money is currency you'll be able to use during the game to buy patents. Stock is never used for anything except end game scoring. Now we're going to have a chance to buy some patents during our turn, but before we do so, let's talk about what these patents do. Let's assume that on an earlier turn, one of the opponents had bought this E patent and had it in front of them. So let's say this was in front of an opponent and I played jewels. Because this other player has E as a patent, they get $1 for each E that was used. Now this money comes from the bank, not from the players. So this player would have gotten $2, 1 for each of the E's, because they own a patent in E. You may own many patents over the game, so they may score a bunch. Now it's important to note that if you own a patent, you never make royalties off your own letters, only off opponents' letters. So if I owned the E patent and jewels was what I played, I would not receive $2 from the bank because I owned this. I cannot pay myself royalties. Only a player, an opponent, would get this if you had built this letter, because patents can only be paid if an opponent has it, not yourself. Now after the bank pays royalties to all the players that had patents on letters you used, now you get to buy a patent if you like. Now you can buy only 1 patent per turn, and you have to have the right amount of money. We just made $4. Now if I want to buy this L patent, it's $4. I would trade in all the $4 that I have in front of me and I pay it back to the bank. Now as you're playing cards, you can see that the letters that you play actually has how much that patent is worth. So when you're holding your cards, you can see how much money each of those patents would cost, assuming they are available. So let's say I wanted to buy this, I would have paid my $4 to the bank, and I would get this L patent, and I would place it in front of me where everybody can see for the rest of the game. And when you're buying patents, you can only buy one of the letters of the word that you just made. In this case, we had just bought the L because we used that L in the word. Also notice on the cards I told you that this is how much the patent would cost if you were to buy this letter if it's available, but also on the top it tells you how many there are. In this case, this is 1 out of 12 letters. The A, it's 1 out of 9 letters, so you can always see how many, how the frequency of those letters, even just by looking on the card. But remember, there's more information on the back of your player aid. Now what we do is we would fill any of the community cards that are empty. In this case, I used all 3 of them, so 3 of them would be replaced. If only 1 was used, you would just replace the 1. You just make sure that there's 3 there to start the next player's turn. Then you would discard all of the cards that you used to create that word. So all these cards for jewels would go in a face-up discard pile next to the Letter Factory deck. Then, here are the 4 cards that were left over that I did not use from my hand. You can choose to discard as many as you like, or none, and draw back up to a total of 7. So let's say I didn't want the Z, I could discard this. I have 3, I need to have 7, so I would draw 4 cards from the Letter Factory, and then I would take these in my hand as well as these ones where nobody can see them, and all these 7 would go in my hand. It would then be the next player's turn clockwise to you, or in other words, to the player to your left would play their turn. Now when playing a word, if you own any of the patents that have the special abilities, these are the cream colored ones that have special abilities on them, you can use them in conjunction of your turn. Let's look at how some of these work. Now when you get these cards, you place them in front of you, and you can use them as many times as you want for the rest of the game. However, you can only use them once per turn. For example, B, you earn double if your word begins and ends in vowels. J, earn double if vowels are at least half of your word. Z, you may add an S to the end of your word. K, earn double if your word has only 1 vowel. Q, you may replace a card to start your turn, and that means you could basically discard a card and take the card from the draw deck, and then you decide if you want to play a word or discard and pass. V, you may build 2 words. Now V can also be sort of combined with some of these other ones. Also keeping in mind, you can only play each of these only once per turn. And X, you may use 1 letter card twice. There are also 2 cards that are different from the rest of the normal letters when you're playing to make a word. The Q will automatically always give you 2 times the amount of coins and stocks when it's part of a word, but there's only 1 of these. Why? There's only 2 of them, and notice there are 2 different colors of both the consonant and the vowel colors, because when you play this, you can decide whether that is a consonant or a vowel, and that's important when mixing that with some of those patent special abilities that we just talked about. And also, when it's your turn, instead of playing a word I mentioned earlier, you can discard. Essentially, you can discard as many cards as you like, and you would draw back that many cards from the letter factory so that you'll have 7 cards, but that ends your turn. Now, if you think the word someone played is not really a word, you can challenge them. If multiple people would like to challenge, the one closer to that player clockwise can challenge. You can challenge any time between when they played the word and when it's the next player's turn, so you have some time to think about it as well. Now, if the word is found to be correct, meaning acceptable, the challenging player must pay 1 coin to the active player that made the word. If they don't have any money, it comes from the bank. If the word is deemed not acceptable from the dictionary that you said was the right one, the active player takes back all the cards they played and returns any coins or stocks that they may have gotten already from that word before the end of their turn. And they must discard 1 factory card from their hand and draw 1 from the deck, and then their turn is over. These turns continue until somebody has enough dollars in patents to reach or go past the goal. So in this case, in a 4-player game, you need at least $26 in patents. As soon as one player does that, that will be the last round. You continue until every player has had equal turns, which means it will stop right before the player who has the Zeppelin, so everyone's had an equal amount of turns. And then you would add up essentially the dollars from your patents, any coins that you may have, and any stock. Whoever has the most is the winner. If it's tied, the player with the highest value in patents is the winner. Well, I hope this video helped you dive right into playing the game and enjoying it quicker as opposed to diving into the rulebook. If you have any further questions, go ahead and leave them as comments to this video, and we will try to get back to you as soon as we can.